Let's examine a feature in Microsoft Word that from day one of Word's existence was actively displayed. But then sometime a few versions back, somebody at Microsoft decided that, no, we won't display this anymore. They'll have to ask for it. I'm talking about the ruler. Now that Microsoft Word defaults to not displaying the ruler, it's up to the user to go up to View and then check this box that says Ruler to get the ruler back on the screen. If we go up and perform a one-page zoom, we can see that the ruler comes in two colors, white and gray. The reason for the two colors is if we look at the top ruler, everything below the white portion of the ruler is usable space on the paper, but anything under the gray portion of the ruler is considered left and right margin space. Same thing for the left ruler. Anything to the right of the white portion of the ruler is usable space, and anything to the right of the gray portions of the ruler are considered top and bottom margins. The reason you want the ruler is because it is packed with features that you would have to visit 2, 3, or 4 different ribbons and dig into dialog boxes to get access to. But through the ruler, you have instant, immediate access. Now, to demonstrate these features, we need some text. Here's a cool little trick to generate some temporary text when you just want to experiment with something in Word. If we type in an equal sign and the word RAND, followed by an open parentheses, and then 2 numbers, the first number representing the number of paragraphs that we wish to generate, comma, and the second number is the number of sentences we wish to generate per paragraph. And I'll put 7, close parentheses, and hit enter. If we zoom out, we just generated 5 paragraphs with 7 sentences per paragraph. I'm going to select all of my text, go up to Home, and perform a full justification. Now it's very easy to see that everything below or to the right of the white portions of the ruler is usable space, and everything below or to the right of the gray rulers is margin space. The first ruler feature we'll examine is how to control your margins. Instead of going up to Layout and then Margins, and let's suppose you don't wish to utilize any of the preset margins, you want to build your own. So you have to come down here to Custom Margins, go into this dialog box, and then start setting your top, bottom, left, and right margins. Well, a faster way to do that is to use the ruler. I'm going to go up to View and do a page width zoom. If you wish to control the top margin, place your pointer where the white and gray rulers meet, and it will say top margin. If you click and hold, you can actually drag down and increase the margin heading, or drag up and decrease it. Same thing for the left and right margins. If I place my pointer where the gray and the white margins meet, we see left margin. I can click and hold, decrease the margin, increase the margin. Likewise for the right side, here's the right margin, click and hold, increase margin, decrease margin. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, really, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but what if I need precision? What if I need exactly, say, 0.75 inch margins, or 1 inch, or 1.5? A neat trick is while you're dragging a margin left or right, or up or down, hold down your Alt key, because then you'll get actual dimensions like a ruler, and you can see exactly where you're placing this left or right. So going over here to my top margin, when I start to drag, I can see the value of that margin as I drag up and down. Our next feature on the ribbon is the ability to control a first line or hanging indent. This is coupled with a right indent. Now, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, we can go up to Home and then go to the Deep Dive button for Paragraph. Here are the normal indentation controls. If I were to set my left indentation to 1 inch, my right indentation to 1 inch, hit OK, the paragraph has an extra indentation. So in addition to the margin, now we're pushing the paragraph in additional, and we're ending prematurely. Going back to the Deep Dive for Paragraph, I'm going to go ahead and set the left and right back to zeros. But I could also perform a first line indent, and maybe I'll do this by 1 inch. And so this is what a first line indent looks like. It's like hitting the Tab key, and it's traditional to do this with the beginning of a new paragraph. But I could do the opposite of this and do what's called a hanging indent. And this is where every line except the first is indented. I don't think this is as common as the first line indent, but it is a feature you can use. So you could do something like a 1 inch left indent, a 1 inch right indent, with a first line indent of an extra 1/2 inch. And you'd get something like this. Now let's reset these. Now let's see how we can perform those same modifications through the ruler. If we want to give this paragraph extra indentation on the left, we're going to go up here to these 3 small buttons on the ruler. The top one is for the first line indent. The middle button is for the hanging indent, and the bottom one is for a left indent. So if I want the entire paragraph to have an extra indentation on the left, I'll grab this small square and I can drag it. Likewise on the right side, For the right indent, I can grab this small button and drag it in. If you hold down your Alt key, then you can get more precise dimensions. If I want to perform a first line indent, I can grab the top of these three small buttons and drag in. If I want to perform a hanging indent, I can grab the middle button and drag in. So I might want to perform a 1/2 inch extra indentation with another 1/2 inch first line indentation and end prematurely 3/4 of an inch on the right. I find it much easier to do this through the ruler than to have to switch ribbons and drill into deep dive dialog boxes. By the way, if you're using something like a first line or a hanging, and you want to adjust both of them at the same time, then grab the lower of those three buttons, and then these two move together. Let's zoom out to a full page. Imagine doing something like a Control-A, selecting your entire document, and then going up and doing a 1/2 inch first line indent on every paragraph at once. Now here's a feature on the ruler that you'll probably use more than any other feature of the ruler, and that is controlling your tabs. Without the ruler, the way we would have to get to our tab settings is to go up to the deep dive for our paragraph controls, and then come down here to the button that says tabs. And this takes us into this dialog box. Now there are aspects about the tabs that can only be done here, like setting the tab leader or the default tab stop. But when it comes to creating new tabs with different alignments or deleting existing tabs, you can do this from the ruler. So let's cancel this. This file is a 4-column list where currently the items are separated by just the normal default tab stop of a 1/2 inch. And if we go up to the paragraph symbol, we can see those tab characters. Those are the arrows. But what if I wanted these expenses to be all the way to the far right and right aligned so that the decimal places line up on one another? And then maybe I'd like these phone numbers to be at the 4.5 inch mark, and these sales reps' names to maybe be at the 2.5 inch mark. I might also want some of them to be centered or left aligned. Through some not so clever video editing, I just replaced all of my current tabs with spaces, because I'm going to use the ruler to control these tabs. The first thing we need to do is decide on what the alignment of the tab is going to be. Left, center, right, decimal aligned. In the upper left corner where the top and left rulers meet, there's a control for setting the alignment of the tabs. Right now it's currently set to a left aligned state, that's the default. But every time you click this button, you can switch it to a different state. So we have centered and right, decimal. This one's for bar. Here's one for first line indent, and here's one for hanging indent. And if you click again, it just loops back to the beginning. What we want to do is set our alignment before we place the tab on the ruler. Now I'm going to go ahead and utilize the normal left margin for my regions. But my sales rep, I want them to be left aligned, starting at the 1/2 inch mark on the ruler. I'm going to highlight all of the rows of text for my table, and then go up to the ruler, and notice when I place my pointer on the ruler, if I put it on the 1.5 inch mark and give it a click, I can drop a left aligned tab. Now, if you're not exactly precise on where you put it, and maybe you're off a little bit, in fact, I'll hit undo, and let's say that I clicked here, and it's not exactly 1.5 inch, I can grab that little mark, and I can slide it left or right. And if you hold down your Alt key, you can get precision. Now, just by placing the tab stop on the ruler doesn't apply a tab character to the text. It just means if I were to go into the text and hit tab, that text will now move below the left aligned tab stop at the 1.5 inch mark. So I could go through this list and start hitting tab and move all of these to that position. Let's now place a center aligned tab for our phone numbers. So I'll go up to my tab control. I'll click it one time and get the center aligned tab. I'll highlight all of my data, and I'll go up to the 4 inch mark and give it a click. And I've just dropped a center aligned tab for each of those highlighted rows. Now if I click back in the text, I'll hit tab, and then each of these goes to a centered position. Finally, I want my expenses column. Oops, I just realized I forgot to tab in the title. So let's give sales rep a tab and give phone expenses a tab. Now, it's not actually phone expenses, it's phone and expenses. But now let's establish the tab for the expenses column. And I want that to be at the 6 inch mark, and I need all of those values to be right aligned. So I'll go back up to my tab stop control, give it a click, that's a right aligned tab. But I need what's called a decimal aligned tab. Because if some of these expenses have fractions and some don't, they won't line up properly on their place values. So what a decimal aligned tab does, it says every number that is a whole number goes to the left of this tab stop, and every number that's a fraction goes to the right of the tab stop. So I'll highlight all of my rows of data, go up to the 6 inch mark, and give it a click. And I've just dropped a decimal aligned tab. Now, expenses is not a number, so when I hit tab for that, it behaves like a normal right align. But now if I go through all of my dollar values and tab them, these are all lined up on their decimal places. And if that's not entirely obvious, let me show you what happens. If I were to put this as $1, it lines up with all of the other $1 positions. It's not right aligned. I'll type in some extra numbers, 45, 238. But then at this point, if I wish to put in a fraction, I'll drop a decimal point, and then every number goes in the opposite direction. Now, I don't need that many numbers in my price, but that was just to make a point. If you need to modify these tab stops, you'll have to highlight all of the rows that are subscribing to the tab stop. And say for the phone number tab stop, the center align tab stop, I can click and hold on that stop and then drag left or right and adjust this. And if I need precision, I can hold down the Alt key and get those dimensions. So I could grab this one and adjust it, grab this one, and then maybe this one. Suppose I were to hit enter after this and I don't want those tabs to continue to the next row because it's going to be more like a traditional paragraph. Well, in that case, I can go up and grab a tab stop from the ruler and pull straight down and remove that tab stop. And I could do the same thing with my center align and my decimal aligned. Now, if you did have a lot of tab stops and you didn't have to pull each one off the ruler one at a time, you would have to go up to the paragraph deep dive, go to tabs, and it might be easier just to say clear all and purge this list. As an aside, if you wanted to have something like dot leaders connecting all of these columns, you'd want to highlight the rows, go back up to your deep dive controls, tabs, and then you could go to each one of these and set it as a tab stop leader. So I'll do this one as a dot leader, and then finally the last one as a dot leader. I'll hit OK, and then you could get something like this. But that's not really a feature of the ruler, that's a tab feature. Our final use of the ruler is if you need to get into those margin controls or tabs. You don't even have to go up to this ribbon and go to the deep dive for paragraph to get to here, because you can go up to the ruler and just double click it. Here you can control the paper size, the margins, the layout. For controlling tabs, you can just double click on a tab. So as you can see, the ruler gives you access to so many different features in the program much faster than getting it through the ribbon. And when it comes to holding down that Alt key and getting those ruler measurements, that's just a lot easier than typing in numbers. So there's everything you ever want to know about Word's ruler. Turn it back on, control your margins, control your tabs, control your line indentations. It's a one-stop shop. Feel free to download these files as practice files. And as always, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Thanks for watching, and remember at BCTI, the learning never stops.